What does it look like to be a proactive paralegal? That's the question I'm going to answer in this week's video. But before I do, I want to let you know that this is a sneak peek into one of many things that I teach inside the Litigation Paralegal Bootcamp, which is going to be open for enrollment again in a few weeks, January 30th. But if you join the waitlist now, you'll get notified the week before, so you can get a jump start on learning everything you need to fast track your career as a litigation paralegal. Everything. From the complaint through the trial. And I'm planning on doing a private Q&A session for just the people who are on the wait list. That's a video meeting, essentially, where I'll answer any questions that you have related to being a litigation paralegal. I'll put a link to the waitlist page in the description below, or you can go to litigationparalegalbootcamp.com to join the waitlist. All right, let's talk about being a proactive paralegal. What does that mean? If you've been following this channel for a while, you may have heard me talk about this before, but for the new subscribers, I worked for an attorney back in the 90s that thought I could read his mind. One year he wrote on my annual performance review and knows what I need before I even know that I need it. So I knew there was a deposition next month that I could start preparing for this month. I knew there was a hearing in a few weeks that I could start preparing for this week. I knew there was going to be a client meeting or a client call because I read the correspondence. So what that attorney didn't know was that I had to figure out a huge workaround in order to get access to every single thing that was coming in on the case. Back in the day, and this is going to kind of date me a little, but back in the day in the early 90s, also known as pre-e-filing, what we would do when a pleading or discovery request or response came in, the secretary would log it, make a copy, and distribute that copy to everyone on the case by using a handwritten routing slip that people would check off their name after reading it. Then they would put it in their outbox and it would go to the next person on the list. I know, time consuming. So because I was the lead paralegal on the case, the arrangement was that I would get my own copy so that I didn't have to wait while that pleading or discovery request or response or correspondence was sitting in the attorney's inboxes, because we know they're also not good about forwarding things on. So anyways, I'm supposed to be getting a copy of everything that comes in at the same time that she's routing it to everyone else. Well, there were several instances where I didn't get copies of things and had talked to her once about it, and then finally went to her and said, you know, Debbie, I'm not getting copies of these pleadings all the time. And one important one that I missed last week was a deposition notice. She said, I don't work for paralegals. Get out of my face. So being fairly new in my paralegal career, I did just that. I got out of her face because it was kind of scary, to be honest. But I was still the lead paralegal in the case. So I was responsible and had a couple of options. I could have gone to the attorney or HR and complained, or I could have come up with a workaround. Now, she was a really good secretary, and she happened to leave early every day because she came in early and left early. So I knew that every day when she left at 4:30, I could sneak into the file room and go see what got filed that day and compare it to what I'd received copies of. And that's exactly what I did. And that's how this attorney wrote that on my performance review the following year. Little did he know what I was having to go through in order to be able to know what he needed before he knew he needed it. I had to be proactive. I tell you that story so that you can remember it next time something comes up for you. I actually want to rephrase it just a little bit. Here's the thing. You cannot put control of what you do and how you do it for your paralegal career into someone else's hands. If there's someone preventing you from doing the best possible job that you can do, come up with a workaround, because this is your career, your reputation. So you don't like how the files are organized, but that's the way they've been doing it for years. If it's something that's preventing you from doing the best possible work and supporting the attorneys in the best possible way that you can, then change it. Don't let other people and their former systems dictate how successful you can be in your career. Let me give you another example of what a proactive paralegal might look like. You get copies of everything coming in, and you see on your attorney's calendar there's a deposition later this month of a key witness in the case. Instead of waiting to see what the attorney wants for the deposition, you start going through the discovery responses, pleadings, and other deposition testimony to see what's been said or what so far has been written about this deponent. You also see what this deponent has authored or received. You put all of that together in an electronic notebook of all those materials, and you send it to your attorney so that they'll be able to prepare for the deposition and start writing out some of the questions they want to ask the witness. A proactive paralegal might also look like someone who's constantly looking for ways to streamline the workflow and make things easier and more efficient. Or someone who's testing out software that just came in to see if this is something that can help with the next big real estate transaction. Or you're the personal injury paralegal who actively tries to identify where these personal injury claim files are getting bottlenecked. You're trying to see if there's a pattern to why it's taking 10 months instead of 6 months to get the file to a certain phase before it can get settled. The next time a situation comes up in work that's a challenge, write out the situation and then write your 2 possible reactions to that situation. Do it on a legal pad. If you were reactive, you might do what? If you were proactive, if you decided that you have the power to respond differently, you would respond how? Merriam-Webster's dictionary says that being proactive means acting in anticipation of future problems, needs, or changes. I think you have to have 3 key behaviors in order to be a proactive individual or proactive paralegal. And those 3 are anticipatory. That involves acting in advance of a future situation rather than just reacting to it. And also you have to have change-oriented behavior, meaning that you take control and cause something to change rather than adapting to a situation or waiting for something to happen. And self-initiated behavior. So the proactive person doesn't need to be asked to act, nor do they require detailed instructions. That doesn't mean that you don't require any instructions. You just don't require step-by-step instructions in order to get you to the end point. So interestingly, I've read the Stephen Covey 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, the book, several times. And in his book, being proactive is one of the habits of highly effective people. And it's one of the habits that I teach in our 7 Habits of the Indispensable Paralegal. So in the book, Covey says that your behavior is a function of your decisions, not your conditions. That you have the power to decide your response to conditions and circumstances. And in the book, he says that reactive people believe that the world is happening to them, but proactive people don't blame circumstances. They change their response. So what I was doing back then, and I didn't know it at the time, I was being proactive in that I came up with a workaround to a condition or a circumstance, like Covey said. I came up with the workaround to that. That would have limited my ability to be a great paralegal. As a proactive paralegal, you have to ask yourself, how can I solve problems? Maybe even before the attorney has to be involved. I did a whole episode and video, podcast episode and video on problem solving for paralegals. I'll put a link to it below. To be proactive, to solve the attorney's problems, that also is going to require a certain level of curiosity, initiative, resourcefulness. Proactive people are curious. They enjoy learning and they're open to acquiring new information. In other words, proactive people have a growth mindset instead of a fixed mindset. If you have a fixed mindset, you think that it's as good as it gets right now. A growth mindset means you're constantly learning to get better, no matter how many years you've been doing what you're doing. Did you know what I found out about being curious? A curious person is asking questions. They're asking questions to get answers that help solve problems quicker or eliminate the problems from ever occurring. Now let's add another twist to the proactive here. Being a proactive paralegal also means that you're proactive in your career, not just on your cases or in your files. This is your career. It's not something that's just happening to you. It's not something that's going to develop into anything more than a job unless you're proactive in continuously developing your career and enhancing your skills. In other words, you shouldn't wait to be asked to go learn a new skill. Your mindset becomes, this is my career and I am the only one responsible for how successful it is. Because here's the thing, If you wait for someone else to advance your career for you, you're going to be waiting a really long time. That's because nobody cares as much about your career and your career growth as you do. Not your supervisor, not your manager, not your company leader. They don't care as much as you do. They might care some, but not as much as you do because you own your career. So remember this, you're not a spectator in this ride that we call our paralegal career. You're a participant. You're the driver of this ride. Being proactive, especially early in your career, also means being proactive and getting feedback to, the areas that you need to improve. Rather than waiting 12 months to hear what the attorneys have to say, to read that annual performance review, have you ever done business with a company like a car dealership, or you've been on a call with a customer service rep, like one of the cable companies, and the last thing they ask you is there anything else that I can help you with? And that's usually followed by, you're going to be getting a survey from our corporate headquarters, and I'd appreciate all 5s or all 10s if you were pleased with the service. If you weren't pleased enough to rate me that high, I'd like to know what to do, something to fix it. Now, I think we can all learn an important lesson from that. Why wouldn't you ask the same thing of people you spend hundreds of hours working for each year? Why wouldn't you go to those attorneys in advance of your performance review, and not just once, but on a regular basis throughout the year, and ask, is there anything that I could be doing to better support you? If you were to rate my performance right now, and it's anything less than outstanding, can we talk about why and what I can do to improve it? All right, so we jammed a lot of proactive information essentially into becoming a mind reader, for your paralegal career. I want to give you an actionable strategy. Number 1, put a sticky note on your computer this week with the words proactive equals, is there a workaround? Second strategy is to think of a situation that's happening to you either today or later this week. When it happens, write it out at the top of a legal pad in big letters, and then draw a line right down the middle of the legal pad and write the words proactive and reactive. So you could put on the right side, proactive, on the left side, reactive. And then write out all of the reactive responses that you might be inclined to have on the left side, and all of the proactive responses that you could have instead on the right side. And then circle the proactive responses that you're going to choose to do. All right, that's it for this week's episode, what it means and what it looks like to be a proactive paralegal. Don't forget to join me in the litigationparalegalbootcamp.com.